The Deathworlder fleet answered the alien SOS with firepower. Part 1. The message came through at 0300 ship time. Most of the crew aboard the United Earth Alliance battlecruiser Vengeance were asleep. But Captain Eric Walsh wasn't. He rarely slept, more than 4 hours at a stretch, a habit from his early days in the service. When the alert sounded on the bridge, he was already in his command chair, reviewing patrol reports. "Captain, we're picking up a signal. It's not one of ours," said Lieutenant Stacy Miller, the communications officer on night duty. Her fingers moved quickly across her console as she tried to make sense of the incoming transmission. Walsh straightened in his chair. "Origin?" "Unknown, sir. The pattern doesn't match anything in our database." Miller's face was lit by the blue glow of her screen. "It's definitely a distress call, though. The repeating pattern is universal for emergency." Walsh nodded and pressed a button on his chair. "Senior officers to the bridge, we have a situation." Within 5 minutes, the command crew had assembled. Commander Laura Bennett, the ship's executive officer, arrived first, her uniform hastily pulled on, but still perfectly presentable. Chief Tactical Officer Kevin Reeves followed shortly after, along with Dr. Olivia Wright, the fleet's xenobiologist. "What? Do we know?" Bennett asked, taking her position beside the captain. "Not much," Walsh admitted. "Unknown signal, distress pattern. Lieutenant Miller is still working on decoding it." As if on cue, Miller looked up from her station. "I've isolated some of the mathematical sequences, sir. They're using prime numbers as a foundation, very similar to how we first established contact protocols, but there's something different about the modulation." Dr. Wright moved to Miller's station and studied the pattern. "May I?" she asked, gesturing to the console. Miller nodded and slid over, allowing the xenobiologist access. "This is fascinating," Wright said after a moment. "The variation in the signal strength indicates a language structure I've never seen before, but the distress pattern is unmistakable." Walsh considered their options. The Vengeance wasn't alone in this sector. As flagship of humanity's 3rd Expeditionary Fleet, Walsh commanded 4 other warships: the destroyers Defiant and Dauntless, and the cruisers Valiant and Victory. All were crewed by humans from Earth, a planet classified as a death world by the few alien species humans had encountered so far. Humans didn't know they came from a death world until their first contact with alien life 50 years ago. The Galactic Assembly had been shocked to learn about Earth's high gravity, diverse biomes filled with predators, extreme weather patterns, and the fact that humans evolved as persistence hunters. Most spacefaring species came from gentler worlds, with less gravity and fewer environmental challenges. This difference made humans naturally stronger and more resilient than most aliens they met. "Put the fleet on alert," Walsh ordered, "but keep our response minimal for now. I don't want to scare whoever's out there if they're genuinely in trouble." Bennett nodded and began issuing orders to the rest of the fleet. The other ships acknowledged and moved into a defensive formation, ready for anything. "Sir?" Miller called, out, excitement in her voice. "I've broken through part of the encryption. It's definitely a distress call. They're under attack." "By whom?" Walsh asked. Miller worked her console for another moment. Then her face paled. "The Vextar, sir." A heavy silence fell over the bridge. The Vextar were the only openly hostile species humans had encountered since venturing into space. Insectoid and aggressive, they had attempted to raid 2 human colony worlds in the past decade. Both attempts had been repelled with significant casualties on both sides. "Are we sure about this?" Bennett asked, voicing the concern everyone felt. "It could be a trap." Walsh stood up and walked to the main view screen, which currently showed nothing but the star-filled void of space. "Can you pinpoint the source of the transmission?" Reeves took over at his tactical station. "Working on it, sir. The signal is coming from the Tau Ceti sector, approximately 2 light-years from our position. That's outside our patrol route," Bennett pointed out, "and dangerously close to the disputed zone." Walsh nodded thoughtfully. The disputed zone was a region of space where territorial claims overlapped between several species, including humans and the Vextar. It was a political minefield. Do we have any identification on who's sending the signal? Walsh asked Dr. Wright, who was still analyzing the transmission. Not a species we've encountered before, she replied. The mathematical structure of their language suggests a highly logical, possibly communal society. Definitely not Vextar. Their communications are much more aggressive and direct. Walsh returned to his command chair and made his decision. Set course for the signal origin. Yellow alert. Weapons on standby but not charged. Let's not appear hostile, but I want us ready if this turns ugly. Sir, Bennett said quietly, stepping closer to the captain. I must remind you that our orders are to patrol this sector only. Entering the disputed zone could be seen as provocative. Noted, Commander, Walsh replied, but we have a standing order to investigate all distress calls. That supersedes our patrol directives. He turned to address the entire bridge. I understand the risks. If anyone has an objection, speak now. No one did. Despite the danger, there was a sense of purpose in the air. Humans had lived by a code for centuries. You answer a call for help no matter who's calling. Very well, Walsh said. Lieutenant Miller, continue working on that signal. I want to know everything about who we're rescuing before we get there. Dr. Wright, prepare first contact protocols just in case. Commander Bennett, brief the other ship captains. Chief Reeves, plot us a course that keeps us away from any known Vextar patrol routes. As the crew carried out their orders, Walsh felt the subtle shift as the Vengeance changed direction. The other ships in the fleet followed. Formation perfect, a testament to countless hours of drills and the natural human instinct for coordinated hunting. 6 hours later, as they approached the edge of the disputed zone, Miller finally decoded the full message. The bridge crew gathered to hear it. Attention, unknown vessels. This is the scientific vessel Harmony of the Tsari Collective. We are under attack by Vextar raiders. Our shields are failing. We carry no weapons. Please assist. We offer knowledge and friendship in exchange for our lives. Walsh looked around at his officers. They all knew the risks. The Vextar were dangerous, and helping an unknown species against them might drag Earth into a larger conflict. But there was never really any doubt about what they would do. All ships prepare for FTL jump, Walsh ordered. Battle stations, weapons hot. As the human fleet prepared to jump, Walsh made one final announcement to his crew and the other ships. We don't know these Tsari. We don't owe them anything. But they've asked for help, and they're facing an enemy we know all too well. This is what we do. This is who we are. The Deathworlders are coming and we're bringing our firepower with us. The Vengeance and its escort ships vanished into FTL, heading toward a first contact situation that would change the course of galactic politics forever. The Deathworlder fleet answered the alien SOS with firepower. Part 2. The human fleet dropped out of FTL at the edge of a dense asteroid field. The 5 warships emerged in perfect formation, sensors immediately scanning the area. On the bridge of the Vengeance, the tactical display lit up with multiple contacts. 3 Vextar attack ships, Mantis class, reported Chief Tactical Officer Kevin Reeves. His fingers flew across his console as he analyzed the data. They're surrounding a vessel of unknown configuration. The unknown ship appears damaged. Its engines are still operational, but barely. Captain Walsh studied the tactical display. The Vextar ships were arranged in a hunting pattern he recognized from previous encounters. They were toying with their prey. Life signs on the unknown vessel? Walsh asked. Dr. Wright checked her readings. Confirmed. But their biological signatures are unlike anything in our database. Definitely not Vextar. Must be the Tsari, Commander Bennett said. They're still alive, at least. Walsh nodded. Open, a channel to the Vextar. Let's try diplomacy first. Lieutenant Miller worked her console. Channel open, sir. Walsh stood straight, his voice clear and firm. Attention, Vextar vessels. This is Captain Eric Walsh of the United Earth Alliance. Battlecruiser Vengeance. You are attacking a civilian ship that has requested our assistance. Cease hostilities immediately and withdraw from this sector. The response came quickly, a burst of harsh clicking sounds that the ship's computer translated. Human interference, not accepted. This prey is claimed. Depart or be destroyed. Walsh wasn't surprised. The Vextar were known for their aggression and territorial behavior. They viewed most other species as either threats or food. They're turning one of their ships toward us, Reeves reported. Weapons charging. Walsh looked at Bennett, who gave a slight nod. They had expected this. All ships. Weapons free, Walsh ordered calmly. Protect that civilian vessel. Standard attack pattern Delta. The human fleet moved with practiced precision. The destroyers Defiant and Dauntless accelerated forward, their smaller size making them more maneuverable among the asteroids. The cruisers, Valiant and Victory, spread out to flank the Vextar formation. The Vengeance, as the largest ship, moved directly toward the approaching Vextar vessel. Human ships were designed differently from most alien vessels. Coming from a high-gravity world with extreme weather and dangerous predators, humans built their ships to withstand punishment. Multiple redundant systems, thick armor plating, and overwhelming firepower were standard features. To other species, human warships often seemed overbuilt and inefficient. To humans, they were simply practical. Vextar fired first. A bright beam of energy shot from their lead ship toward the Vengeance. It struck the human vessel's forward shields, which flared bright blue but held. Return fire, Walsh ordered. Target their weapons systems. The Vengeance's main guns roared to life. Unlike the energy weapons favored by most spacefaring races, humans still used advanced railguns alongside their energy weapons. These magnetically accelerated projectiles traveled at a significant fraction of light speed and could tear through most ship armor. The first volley smashed into the Vextar ship, punching through its shields and tearing into its hull. The insectoid vessel shuddered under the impact, green fluid leaking from the wounds in its organic-looking hull. Direct hit, Reeves announced. Their forward weapons are offline. The other Vextar ships are breaking off their attack on the Zari vessel, Bennett reported. They're turning to engage us. The space around them lit up with weapons fire. The human destroyers darted between asteroids, using the natural cover to launch hit-and-run attacks against the Vextar. The cruisers engaged the second Vextar ship, their coordinated fire overwhelming its defenses. Meanwhile, Dr. Wright was attempting to establish communication with the rescued vessel. I'm sending first contact protocols on all frequencies, she said, using mathematical sequences as a foundation. On the tactical display, Walsh watched as the damaged Zari ship slowly moved away from the combat zone, seeking shelter among the larger asteroids. At least they understood enough to get to safety. The battle wasn't much of a contest. The Vextar were used to preying on weaker, less militarized species. They weren't prepared for the raw power and tactical discipline of human warships. Within 20 minutes, 2 of the 3 Vextar vessels were crippled, their engines and weapons destroyed. The third tried to escape, accelerating toward the edge of the asteroid field. Walsh considered letting it go, but a fleeing Vextar meant reinforcements would soon follow. Defiant, Dauntless cut them off, he ordered. Victory, target their engines. The 2 destroyers moved to block the Vextar's escape route, while the cruiser fired a precise burst that shattered the enemy ship's engine housing. Disabled and surrounded, the Vextar vessel went silent. Captain, Miller called out. I'm receiving a transmission from the alien vessel. They're responding to Dr. Wright's contact protocols. Put it through, Walsh said. The bridge speakers came to life with a melodic, flowing language that sounded almost like singing. The computer worked to translate, and after a moment, words began to form. Unknown defenders, we are the Tsari. You have saved us from certain death. We offer our deepest gratitude and friendship. May we establish visual communication? Walsh nodded to Miller, who activated the view screen. The image that appeared showed a being unlike any the humans had seen before. The Tsari had a slender, almost delicate build with blue-tinted skin that seemed to shimmer with an inner light. Large, almond-shaped eyes dominated a face with minimal features. Just a small mouth and 2 breathing slits where a nose would be on a human. The being appeared to be struggling slightly in what, to the Tsari, must have been uncomfortably high gravity. I am Zilra, Science Officer of the Harmony, the alien said, the translation coming through clearly now. On behalf of the Tsari Collective, I thank you for your intervention. Walsh stepped forward where the alien could see him. I'm Captain Eric Walsh of the United Earth Alliance. We responded to your distress call as any of our ships would. Are there many injured among your crew? Yes, Zilra admitted. The Vextar attacked without warning or provocation. We are a research vessel, studying the unusual mineral formations in this asteroid field. We have no weapons. We can provide medical assistance, Walsh offered. Our doctor has experience with many different species. The Tsari seemed surprised by this offer. You would do this? For strangers? It's standard procedure for us, Walsh explained. We'll need to send a shuttle to your ship. Is that acceptable? The alien nodded, a gesture they must have learned from some previous contact with humanoid species. Yes, we welcome your help, Captain Walsh. But I must warn you, the Vextar rarely hunt alone. There will be more. Walsh exchanged glances. With Bennett, they had suspected as much. We'll deal with that when it comes, Walsh said confidently. For now, let's get your people the help they need. As the human fleet secured the area and prepared to render aid to the Tsari, Walsh couldn't help but wonder what they had just gotten themselves into. First contact situations were always unpredictable, and the Vextar threat remained. But looking at the grateful alien on the screen, he knew they had made the right choice. The Deathworlders had answered the call with firepower. Now they would stay to protect those who couldn't protect themselves. It was what humans did best. The Deathworlder fleet answered the alien SOS with firepower. Part 3, 6 hours after the battle, the situation had stabilized. The Vengeance maintained its position near the damaged Tsari ship, while the rest of the human fleet patrolled the surrounding space, alert for any sign of Vextar reinforcements. A medical team led by Dr. Nancy Clark, the fleet's chief medical officer, had boarded the alien vessel to treat the injured. Captain Walsh decided it was time to meet these aliens in person. He selected a small delegation. Himself, Commander Bennett, as security, and Dr. Wright to handle cultural and scientific matters. They boarded a shuttle and made the short journey to the Harmony. The Tsari ship was beautiful in a strange way. Unlike the angular armored design of human vessels, the Harmony had smooth, flowing lines that reminded Walsh of sea creatures from Earth's oceans. The hull shimmered with a faint blue glow that seemed to pulse like a heartbeat. As the shuttle docked, Walsh felt the subtle difference in gravity. Gravity seems lighter here, he noted. About 0.7 Earth standard, Dr. Wright confirmed, checking her instruments. Their homeworld must have lower gravity than ours. The airlock cycled, and they stepped aboard the alien ship. The interior was just as organic-looking as the exterior. The corridors curved gently, and the walls seemed to glow with the same soft blue light as the hull. The air smelled sweet, like flowers after rain. Zilra was waiting for them, along with 2 other Tsari. Up close, the aliens were even more striking. They stood slightly taller than the average human, but were much more slender. Their blue skin had patterns that shifted subtly, like sunlight through water. They wore simple garments that seemed to be made of a material similar to silk. Captain Walsh, Zilra greeted them, making a flowing gesture with long 6-fingered hands. Welcome aboard the Harmony. These are my colleagues, Venlo, our ship's captain, and Mirate, our chief engineer. Walsh introduced his team, and they were led to what appeared to be a meeting room. The furniture was oddly shaped for human bodies, but they managed to find comfortable positions. Your doctor is most skilled, Venlo said. The Tsari captain's voice was deeper than Zilra's but had the same musical quality. She has treated our wounded with great care, despite our different biologies. Dr. Clark has experience with xenomedicine, Walsh explained. She says your people heal quickly. Yes, it is our nature, Mirati said. The engineer seemed fascinated by the humans, her large eyes studying them intently. But we are not built for conflict like your species. We could never have survived the Vextar attack without your intervention. Dr. Wright leaned forward with interest. Your ship has no weapons at all? How do you defend yourselves in space? We rarely need to, Venlo explained. The Tsari Collective maintains peaceful relations with most spacefaring species. We trade knowledge and cultural exchanges rather than resources or territory. Until now, this has kept us safe. The Vextar don't care about peace, Commander Bennett pointed out. They only understand strength. We are learning this painful lesson, Venlo admitted. Our sensors detected unusual mineral formations in this asteroid field. We came to study, them not knowing this area was claimed by the Vextar. Walsh nodded thoughtfully. The disputed zone is dangerous for unescorted research vessels. The borders shift constantly as different species push their claims. We were unaware, Zilra said. Our star charts showed this region as unclaimed space. We would never have entered had we known of the danger. The conversation continued, with both sides sharing information about their species and cultures. The humans learned that the Tsari evolved on a low-gravity world with few predators and abundant resources. Their society developed through cooperation rather than competition, and they had never experienced anything like warfare until they ventured into space. In turn, the Tsari were fascinated by humanity's evolution on what they called a death world, a harsh planet that forced its inhabitants to become strong, resourceful, and sometimes aggressive to survive. It explains much about your ships and technology, Mirate said. Your vessels are heavily armored, with redundant systems and powerful weapons. You build as if expecting constant danger. We prepare for the worst while hoping for the best, Walsh explained. Earth's history taught us that lesson many times. After the meeting, Mirate offered to show the humans their engine room. Engineer Maria Rodriguez from the Vengeance joined them, eager to see alien technology. The Tsari propulsion system used principles that human science had only begun to explore, converting energy directly from subspace. Meanwhile, Dr. Wright visited the Tsari science labs where Zilra showed her their discoveries from the asteroid field. The minerals contained unique properties that could potentially revolutionize medical technology, including treatments for radiation exposure, a constant concern for space travelers. In the Harmony's control center, Walsh and Bennett discussed security measures with Venlo. The human ships would escort the Tsari vessel back to safer space once repairs were complete. Our sensors have better range than yours, Walsh explained. We'll detect any Vextar ships long before they can reach us. You speak of the Vextar with such confidence, Venlo observed. Most species fear them greatly. Bennett smiled slightly. We respect them as dangerous opponents, but we don't fear them. Humans have faced worse. On your death world? Venlo asked. And beyond it, Walsh said. Earth's history is full of challenges that nearly destroyed us. We survived them all, and each one made us stronger. The Tsari seemed to consider this deeply. Perhaps this is why you answered our call without hesitation. You understand survival in a way we do not. A communication alert sounded, and Walsh touched his earpiece. Walsh here. Captain, this is Reeves on the Vengeance. Long-range sensors have detected multiple FTL signatures at the edge of the system. Energy patterns match Vextar ships. Estimate 12 vessels, including at least 2 heavy cruisers. Walsh's expression remained calm, but his mind raced with calculations. Understood. I'm returning to the ship. Alert the fleet and go to battle. Stations. He turned to the Tsari. More Vextar ships are coming, a lot more. We need to accelerate the repairs to your vessel. How soon can you be spaceworthy? Mirate consulted with her engineering team. With your help, perhaps 6 hours. But our FTL drive remains damaged. We cannot outrun the Vextar. Walsh exchanged looks with Bennett. They both knew what this meant. The human fleet could retreat. Their faster ships could easily escape. But that would leave the Tsari defenseless. We won't abandon you, Walsh said firmly. We answered your call and will see this through. But you are outnumbered, Venlo protested. We cannot ask you to sacrifice yourselves for us. Walsh smiled. You didn't ask. We offered. Besides, humans have a saying. It's not the size of the dog in the fight, it's the size of the fight in the dog. The Tsari looked confused by the Earth expression, but they understood the meaning clearly enough. We have 6 hours to prepare, Walsh continued, and we're going to use every minute of it. Commander Bennett, contact the fleet. I want all available engineers helping with the Harmony's repairs. Dr. Wright, work with Zilra on a secure communication channel between our ships. As the humans and Zari sprang into action, Walsh felt a familiar calm settle over him. The odds were against them, but humans had always thrived when facing impossible situations. The Vextar were about to learn why. Deathworlders were the most dangerous adversaries in the galaxy. The Deathworlder fleet answered the alien SOS with firepower. Part 4. The next 6 hours were a flurry of activity. Human engineers worked alongside Zari technicians to repair the damaged ship. The two species had different approaches to technology, but they learned from each other quickly. Engineer Greg Collins from the Vengeance discovered that Zari power systems could be modified to boost shield strength, while the Zari learned about human damage control techniques. Meanwhile, Captain Walsh gathered his officers aboard the Vengeance to plan their defense. The tactical display showed the approaching Vexitar fleet, 12 warships moving in attack formation. We're outnumbered more than 2 to 1, Commander Bennett said, studying the display. And those heavy cruisers outgun anything we have. Direct confrontation would be unwise, agreed Reeves. We should focus on protecting the Harmony until it can escape. Walsh nodded. Agreed. But we need to slow the Vextar down. He turned to Lieutenant Alan Harris, the fleet's navigation officer. Lieutenant, what do you think about using the asteroid field to our advantage? Harris smiled slowly. That could work, sir. The Vextar ships are larger and less maneuverable than ours. If we can draw them into the denser parts of the field, we could limit their ability to coordinate. Exactly, Walsh said. We don't need to defeat their entire fleet. We just need to buy enough time for the Harmony to get clear. Dr. Wright, who had been consulting with Zilra about Vextar behavior, added her insights. The Tsari have observed Vextar tactics in previous encounters. They're aggressive but predictable. They focus on whatever they perceive as the biggest threat, often ignoring easier targets. So we need to make ourselves the most attractive target, Bennett concluded. Collins had another idea. Captain, what about the mining charges that Zari were using to study the asteroids? Could we repurpose them as weapons? Walsh's eyes lit up. Excellent thinking, Collins. How many do they have? About 50, sir. Not enough for a direct assault, but if we place them strategically throughout the asteroid field, we could create choke points and ambush zones. Reeves finished, already calculating the possibilities. Force the Vextar to go where we want them. Over the next few hours, the plan took shape. Small teams deployed throughout the asteroid field, placing modified mining charges at key locations. The human destroyers would act as bait, drawing Vextar ships into these kill zones. Meanwhile, the cruisers would protect the Harmony, and the Vengeance would engage the Vextar command ships directly. Zilra joined the planning session, offering detailed information about Vextar ship vulnerabilities. Their sensor arrays are located here, he said, pointing to specific areas on the diagram. And their ships are partly organic. They're particularly sensitive to certain radiation frequencies. This information helped the humans modify their weapons for maximum effectiveness. The Zari, despite being peaceful, proved valuable allies in preparing for battle. As the final preparations were made, Walsh addressed the combined crews of all 5 human ships via video link. In less than an hour, we'll face an enemy that outnumbers us and believes we'll run from a fight. They're wrong. We're humans. We come from a world that tried to kill us every day, and it only made us stronger. Today, we'll show the Vextar what that means. A cheer went up from the crews. Despite the danger ahead, morale was high. This was what humans did best, facing impossible odds with determination and clever planning. The Vextar fleet entered, the system right on schedule. Their ships were impressive, chitinous, organic-looking vessels bristling with weapons. The 2 heavy cruisers led the formation, flanked by smaller but still formidable attack ships. They're scanning us, Reeves reported from his tactical station. They've detected both our fleet and the Harmony. Walsh nodded. Begin Phase 1. Defiant, Dauntless, you're up. The 2 human destroyers broke formation and accelerated toward the asteroid field. As expected, 4 Vextar ships immediately changed course to pursue them. They took the bait, Bennett said with satisfaction. Valiant victory, maintain position around the Harmony, Walsh ordered. Vengeance, plot intercept course with the lead Vextar cruiser. Let's get their attention. The massive human battle cruiser moved forward, directly challenging the Vextar command ship. It was a bold move that no other species would attempt, deliberately engaging a superior force head-on. They're responding, Reeves said. 6 ships, including 1 heavy cruiser, are moving to engage us. The others are still pursuing our destroyers. Perfect, Walsh said. Time for Phase 2. Lieutenant Harris, take us into grid section Alpha 7, the Dow. Vengeance changed course, heading for a specific area of the asteroid field where several mining charges had been placed. The Vextar ships followed, exactly as planned. Meanwhile, the destroyers Defiant and Dauntless executed complex maneuvers through the asteroid field, using their superior agility to stay just ahead of their pursuers. When a Vextar ship passed, near one of the hidden charges, the human ships detonated it remotely. The explosion sent asteroid fragments smashing into the enemy vessel, damaging its propulsion systems. Back on the Vengeance's bridge, Walsh watched the tactical display with intense focus. Now, Reeves, first volley. The Vengeance fired its main guns at the approaching Vextar cruiser, but instead of aiming for its hull or weapons, they targeted the sensor arrays Zilra had identified. The shots hit with pinpoint accuracy, temporarily blinding the enemy ship. Detonation sequence Alpha now, Walsh ordered. Multiple mining charges exploded simultaneously, creating a cascade of destruction that tore through the formation of Vexitar ships. 2 smaller vessels were destroyed outright, and a third was severely damaged. Throughout the asteroid field, similar scenes played out as the human destroyers led their pursuers into one trap after another. The Vextar, unused to such tactics, struggled to adapt. Their numerical advantage meant little in the confined spaces of the asteroid field, where the more maneuverable human ships could control the engagement. On the Harmony, the Tsari watched, in amazement as the human fleet executed their plan with precision and courage. Venlo stood beside Mirati in their control center, monitoring the battle. I have never seen such tactics, Venlo said softly. They fight like they were born for it. In a way they were, Mirati replied. Their world shaped them to survive against all odds. We are fortunate they chose to be our protectors rather than our enemies. The battle raged for nearly an hour. The human ships took damage. The Dauntless lost an engine and the Vengeance's hull was breached in 2 sections. But they gave far worse than they received. 4 Vextar ships had been destroyed, and 3 more crippled. Just as it seemed, the humans might actually win. Long-range sensors detected a new threat. A third Vextar heavy cruiser was approaching from the far side of the system, having circled around to cut off their escape route. Captain, Reeves called out, his voice tense. We have a problem. The Deathworlder fleet answered the alien SOS with firepower. Part 5. The new Vextar cruiser is blocking our escape route, Reeves reported, his voice tense but controlled. It's positioned between us and the jump point. Captain Walsh studied the tactical display. The situation had just become much more complicated. The human fleet had been fighting brilliantly, but they had taken damage. The Dauntless was operating on a single engine, the Defiant's shields were failing, and the Vengeance had hull breaches on 2 decks. Even the Victory and Valiant, which had been protecting the Harmony, showed battle scars. What's the status of the Harmony's repairs? Walsh asked. Bennett checked the latest report. Their main engines are operational, but the FTL drive is still offline. They can move, but they can't jump to safety. Walsh nodded, his mind racing through options. The appearance of the third Vextar cruiser had changed everything. They needed a new plan, and fast. Captain, Miller called from communications. I'm receiving a transmission from the Tsari ship. Put it through, Walsh ordered. Zilra's face appeared on the screen. The Tsari scientist looked concerned but determined. Captain Walsh, we have been monitoring the battle. The new Vextar vessel threatens us all. We wish to help. Unless you've been hiding weapons on your ship, I'm not sure how you can help. Zilra, Walsh replied honestly. Not weapons, Zilra said. Knowledge. Our sensors have been analyzing the Vextar ships throughout this conflict. We have detected a weakness in their shield harmonics. If you can match your weapons to a specific frequency, you might penetrate their defenses more effectively. Walsh turned to Reeves. Is that possible? The tactical officer nodded. We can retune our energy weapons. It would take about 10 minutes. Do it, Walsh ordered. Then he turned back to Zilra. Thank you. But this still leaves us with the problem of getting your ship to safety. Perhaps not, Zilra said. Mirate believes she can convert our research equipment to generate a focused energy pulse. It won't damage the Vextar ship, but it might temporarily disrupt their sensors, create a blind spot we can exploit. For the first time since the battle began, Walsh smiled. That's exactly what we need. How long? 15 minutes, Zilra replied. You have 10, Walsh said. All ships regroup at coordinates Delta 9. We need to buy some time. The human fleet executed a fighting withdrawal, falling back to a more defensible position while continuing to engage the Vextar ships. They detonated their remaining mining charges to slow the enemy advance, creating fields of debris that the larger Vextar vessels had to navigate carefully. Meanwhile, aboard the Harmony, Mirate worked frantically to convert their research equipment. The Tsari engineer had never designed a weapon before, but she understood energy manipulation better than anyone in the fleet. With guidance from Collins, who communicated from the Vengeance, she repurposed a mineral analysis device into something new. It's ready, she finally reported to Zilra. But we only have enough power for a single pulse. Then we must make it count, Zilra said, relaying the information to the human fleet. Walsh gathered his officers for one final briefing. Here's the plan. The Harmony will fire their energy pulse at the new Vextar cruiser, temporarily blinding it. The moment that happens, Vengeance will engage it directly using the modified weapon frequencies. Meanwhile, Victory and Valiant will escort the Harmony past the cruiser. Defiant and Dauntless will provide covering fire. The Vengeance will be heavily outnumbered, Bennett pointed out. The other Vextar ships will converge on your position. That's the idea, Walsh said calmly. We'll hold their attention while you get the Harmony to safety. The officers exchanged glances. They understood what the captain was proposing, a sacrificial play to ensure the mission's success. Sir? Bennett began to protest, but Walsh cut her off. The decision is made, Commander. Get the Harmony safely past that cruiser. That's our mission. Bennett nodded reluctantly. As executive officer, she would command the escort while Walsh engaged the enemy. Yes, sir. Walsh addressed the entire fleet one last time. All ships, prepare for final approach. Remember what we're fighting for, not just to save the Tsari, but to show the galaxy what humans stand for. We answer calls for help, no matter the cost. The fleet moved into position. The Harmony, now able to maneuver under its own power, stayed close to the Victory and Valiant. The Defiant and Dauntless, despite their damage, took flanking positions. The Vengeance led the formation, its massive hull between the Tsari ship and the approaching Vextar forces. Energy pulse ready. Zilra reported from the Harmony. Fire on my mark, Walsh ordered. 3, 2, 1, mark. A brilliant blue-white beam shot from the Harmony toward the Vextar cruiser, blocking their path. When it struck, it didn't damage the ship, but its sensors went haywire. The massive vessel began firing randomly into space, unable to locate its targets now, Walsh shouted. All ships execute. The Vengeance surged forward, its weapons firing at the exact frequencies that Tsari had identified. The shots tore through the Vextar cruiser's shields like they weren't even there, striking vital systems. At the same time, the other human ships escorted the Harmony around the confused Vextar vessel. The remaining Vextar ships, seeing the Vengeance attacking their command ship, converged on the human battlecruiser as Walsh had predicted. The Vengeance found itself surrounded, taking fire from multiple directions, but it gave as good as it got, its modified weapons devastating the Vextar defenses. On the bridge, systems were failing as damage mounted. Walsh remained standing at the command position, calmly issuing orders even as explosions rocked the ship. Sir, Reeves called out. The Harmony and escort ships have cleared the blockade. They're heading for the jump point. Walsh nodded. Mission accomplished. Now let's see if we can follow them. Helm, set course to rendezvous with our fleet. The Vengeance's engines roared as it attempted to break free from the Vextar encirclement. Several enemy ships moved to block its escape, but the human vessel's firepower cleared a path. Despite severe damage, the battlecruiser limped away from the battlefield, covered by the returning Defiant and Dauntless. 3 days later, the battered human fleet arrived at the nearest United Earth Alliance outpost. The Harmony traveled with them, its crew working alongside the humans to repair battle damage during the journey. Both species had learned from each other. The Tsari about courage and sacrifice, the humans about the Tsari's advanced scientific knowledge. News of the battle spread quickly throughout the sector. Recordings of human warships engaging and defeating numerically superior Vexitar forces were transmitted to dozens of worlds. Species that had dismissed humans as primitive newcomers now saw them in a new light, as potential protectors. The outpost's observation lounge, Walsh stood beside Zilra, watching as technicians from both species worked together on repairs. My government has sent a formal message of gratitude to Earth, Zilra said. They wish to establish an official alliance with humanity. Walsh nodded. I expect they won't be the only ones. News travels fast in this part of the galaxy. Does that concern you? Zilra asked. Many worlds will now seek your protection. We don't want to be seen only as warriors, Walsh replied. Humans are explorers, scientists, artists too. Perhaps, Zilra said, his multifaceted eyes reflecting the starlight. But in a dangerous galaxy, those who can fight are valued. The reputation you've earned will follow you wherever you go. As human and Tsari ships came and went from the busy outpost, Walsh considered this future. Humanity had answered a distress call with firepower, as they always would. But now the rest of the galaxy had seen what Deathworlders could do. Not just destroy, but also protect. New distress calls were already coming in from distant sectors. Word had spread that when the human fleet responded to an SOS, they brought with them something the galaxy desperately needed: the courage to stand against threats that others fled from, and the firepower to make a difference. Walsh smiled as he watched a joint human-Zari crew preparing for their next mission. The Deathworlders had found their place among the stars,